Hey guys, welcome to the Gary and I podcast. I hope you stay for the conversation, but leave feeling loved, inspired, and ready to make a difference. Let's do it. Welcome back to the Gary and I podcast. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Zak. Zak and a handful of men bring in an important awareness to the table about mental health. I've known Zak only personally for a short time, but his story and his passion align with mine. And today we have the opportunity to talk about how important it is to normalize and debunk ideas behind masculinity and mental health. I'm excited to have you on the podcast, Zak, and to get to know you more and talk about MenTell. Welcome, and tell the listeners about who you are and where you come from. Are you from Alberta, actually?
I am. I'm from Calgary. As you
Awesome.
can tell,
Okay.
I love Ian Tyson, and
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of him as well, his music. I'm I'm just an everyday guy here in Calgary. Was born in East Africa in Tanzania, came to Calgary at 4 months old, and it's been home. Alberta's home to me. And just going through life, you fall a few times, but you don't realize some of the lessons along the way until it's sometimes a little too late in life. So, along the journey, I've found some amazing people to kind of encourage me, a support system where, there's those dark days that we all have. I'm no different than you or anyone else that's listening. And kind of came together and said, you know what, why don't we as everyday guys post content, share content that's inspiring others to maybe speak up, shatter the silence, break the stigma, whatever you want to say, but speak up, because oftentimes we hold it in and then it affects our friends, family, our work, and community ultimately.
Very true. Yeah. A lot of the listeners on the podcast can relate to that. A lot of the stories that I've gone through and spoken about has really been about trauma, about mental health. My own personal journey was a lot of, pain, and I harbored that for the longest time, right up until I was in my mid-20s. And I grew up what was kind of a masculine norm, playing rugby, doing football, having my own secrets inside, from being in trauma as a child and then having abuse. And there was never really a platform for me to be able to speak to anybody. And I love how you hashtag bro check. I never had brothers out there that I could, have, first of all, a professional relationship with in sports and in work, but then also have an intimate relationship where we can be like, hey, I'm not okay. And I think that in everything that I've been doing and what you've been doing, our paths collided together through a mutual friend from Porchlight, where they're doing a lot of mental health outreach to rural communities. And so I actually got wind of you personally through our mutual friend, Amy. And she was like, hey, he's busy doing this kind of the same thing you're doing. And at that point, I dug into your MenTell social media, the actual platform, and dug into your Canadian podcast too. And I have to say, I admire all the work that you're doing. Zak, why? Yeah, big question. Why are you, what's the drive for getting awareness out there?
I think at my lowest moments in life, there were angels out there, I'd like to say, people that were good to me when I wasn't good to myself, or even them per se. They were there for me. So I think it's our duty when we're feeling a little better in life to pass the baton, to build those bridges. If I'm having a dark day, I'm calling you, Gary. I'm texting you, because you've already spoken. You've already been there, done that. Maybe not, maybe your own story, but I can bounce ideas, and I know that I'll be okay to talk to you, and it's safe. And vice versa. And I hope it's the same.
I'm glad that you've opened up that bridge, because a lot of us guys, we feel like we're on an island, And when there's an opportunity to say, hey, we're okay, and we know that we're not going to be judged on the other side,
Mm.
and like you can say, hey, like it could be something even just stupid where you're just feeling anxiety for no reason
Yeah.
at all. You're putting in all the work, but you're still not feeling like you're getting over that crux. And um, I know that there's a lot of guys out there while we talk now, as we talk as friends, as we talk about ambassadors for mental health, that it is okay to be in pain and not know why, right?
What do you think it is though? Where do you think this pain is coming from? I mean, where did it start for you, and how were you able to kind of navigate through that to break that barrier, just kind of speak up and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm done talking about this and keeping it within myself.
So the tables have turned. I honestly, I've got quite a dark story. So my childhood began with a sexual abuse that was pretty raw, and it was left on, I guess, we didn't have our parents didn't have the resources, first of all, to deal with that. I, as a kid, harbored it. And I remember the very second when there was actually like police involved and everything else in it. And when the question was asked to me, hey,
Mhm.
did you get touched in a very uncomfortable way, or had this person hurt you? My first response was to lie, because I was threatened and groomed, and I was told that my mom was going to pass. So he was going to kill my mom. Right. So for me as a 5-year-old kid, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do anything I can to protect. I'm going to be the hero. And I'm like, no, no, nothing happened. But I remember specifically that moment of looking at my father's eye and being like, hey, I'm lying. I need help. Everything inside me was screaming. So, with that
Mhm.
massive sweep of putting that under the carpet, it became a snowball effect of a lot of things that started to happen in my life, with substance abuse, self-worth, questioning my sexuality because of maybe a trauma or the first incidences. And, the whole thing of, in the 90s when I played rugby in high school, it was never okay to have conversations about sexual abuse as being a male, right? So,
Of course.
um, yeah, I don't think we ever really had any kind of places to land. So, um, in my point, I ended up, so I'm same as you. I was in South Africa. I lived in Cape Town
Hmm.
for a lot of my middle years. So after high school in Canada, we moved back to Cape Town, South Africa, and I studied out that way. I dug into a lot of like abusive behavior with drugs and alcohol. And there was a point I even found myself in a jail. And I remember just like, I always knew I have faith. So I always knew that
Hmm.
God was there for me, but I didn't know how to feel the love from God, because I felt ashamed. Like I was like, well, I haven't really dealt with any of this stuff. And yeah, there was just, some point where after my mom passed away, I was like, things need to change. Like it really does. And like your story too, because you and I spoken last
Hmm.
week, we share that connection and that sadness of losing our mother. And I think
Absolutely.
that was the turning point for me as well. And I was like, I have to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that though.
Yeah, of course. And how about you? Like, I know that the same thing. You've lost your mom, and that's kind of what bonds us together too. We lost our moms in their mid 50s, and we were very young. We were still growing up in a sense where we really needed our mother figure at that point. Would you want to share your story?
Absolutely. I still think we need our mother figures at times. And I think, we talked about it last time is our moms are so valuable to us, and
Mhm.
anybody out there, give that phone call, don't hold that grudge, don't hold any of that because life is too short. I mean, we realized that I had a great relationship with my mom,
Yeah.
but yeah, those unanswered calls sometimes, or I'm busy and just pick up the phone.
I know. And it's funny, like even as a young partying adult, if I was at a nightclub and my mom would call me, she knew the nonsense I was getting up to. I like she wasn't
Oh,
dumb, right? So she like, but she was just relentless in the times when she would call me. She knew those were the hours, was like the witching hour. She would call me at like 12 o'clock and be like, hey son, how are you doing?
same.
How's the night going? And I'd be like on my phone on the balcony,
Yeah.
like trying to talk to her and telling her things are okay. And she's always like, I love you. Take care of yourself. And if you need someone to come pick you up, I'm here for you. And I think that what you just said is very true. If you can still have that name come up on your phone,
Mhm.
do not pick it up.
No. I still have my mom on my favorites on my phone
Yeah.
still. And it's been since 2019. She had passed away, brain
Okay.
cancer,
A brain
and
cancer. Wow.
she had just turned 55. So
Right.
yeah, it
What was
throws
that
you
like her brain cancer? Were you watching it kind of slowly happening, or was it a very quick process?
um, months.
Yeah,
But she
that's
was it was tough. It was very,
yeah,
very tough to kind of go through that and kind of navigate the whole experience of life and death and loss, and then you feeling lost.
yeah,
And like as I mentioned, it was August 2019. I don't remember when it was. Was it March or whatever when COVID had come to Canada
right.
or the world, and
2020. Yeah, March
2020.
2020.
And you're isolated, you're alone in your thoughts. Mom's gone now, so you're still shocked. And then this thing happens, so you start thinking, is the world coming to an end? Because
Yeah,
for me, my world already had come to an end,
right.
for that
So it was a
moment in
double
time,
whammy.
a double whammy. But I didn't notice it at the moment. I thought, okay, well, we'll all, I don't know, get through this together, right? The phrase that we
Yeah,
all
we're all in the
heard.
same boat. We're all gonna
Yes,
day drink together, right? Like it's,
exactly.
no
Yes.
more responsibilities. But meanwhile, you had all that pain.
And then you start masking it with alcohol. So would drink before, and you know, it wouldn't sit well with me, but I didn't know the signs or the feelings, and I just ignored it all. And I was like, okay, whatever. Whoops, might have said something I didn't mean to say, or
Yeah,
always apologizing.
right.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, I hear that.
So November 25th, 2020, I just cold turkeyed it. I I had a night of drinking, and how about this? A night of drinking alone at home,
Right.
and no one's there. And I'm like, I'm so done with life. I'm so over all this. I just fed up. I'm no good to society. I'm no good to myself or anybody around me. Um,
So
I
you
want to
weren't
be with
really
my
having a
mom.
party. You were really kind of at the end of your rope, really, to say at that
Drowning.
point when you were, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and just drinking. Like, I get it because it's that time of that the world did feel like it was on fire.
Yeah.
Really did.
Well, you don't have any consequences either, right? You're
No.
you're thinking, who cares? I don't care anymore about my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, gosh, life is such a beautiful thing. It's so fragile. It is,
Mhm.
it's dark, but there's beauty in it. If you've seen darkness, you can see light. And I
I
think,
agree.
again, one of the reasons why you and I are talking and why we're doing what we're doing is
Yeah.
because we've seen pain.
Yeah.
And if we can help the next person, fellow man or fellow woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It
Yeah.
just, let's help each other grow. Um, obviously with the men's mental health, it's because I am a guy, and
Mhm.
I was trying to understand is like, well, why am I not talking? What is going on with me? And why am I holding all this in? I joined an Alcoholics Anonymous group on Zoom the next day. I cold turkeyed the alcohol and just never looked back.
Right.
Been a beautiful journey of healing.
And like I like how just gonna kind of go back a little bit there when you were saying about how sharing how we both see the darkness and then that's how we saw the light too.
Hmm.
A lot of it is that in order to see the light, you have to almost see the dark first, right?
Absolutely.
And within our experiences, it would be a shame that we've gone through so much to not be able to sit here and have conversation about our life and
Hmm.
say, hey, like these are the things that we've done. Like it's still a process. We're not like magically healed and hit with a magic wand and like everything is okay. Like some days are better than others, but because of all the crap that we'd gone through, we have more recognition of the days that are going to get darker, right? And we know we're like, okay, you know what, we're on a downward, and what that feels like, what it looks like, and we're not going to go there again. And I think that the biggest part for to get actually ever better is community, and that's what MenTell has started to create.
Absolutely. And it's just a start. It's been 3 years, but it's more or less to kind of just spark the awareness. We didn't want to go down the medical route or, hey, we're therapists, because we're not. We're everyday
Mhm.
folks. And that's, I
Right.
think there's a beauty in that itself, because I think it's a great or a great bridge to kind of help that person say, okay, well, this person is no different than me, you
Right.
know, in whatever they're dealing with. They come from the same walk or different walks, and that's also beautiful too.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
I spoke with Do More Egg, and
Hmm.
a couple of weeks ago they had an online event, and I said to them, you know, and this is for rural communities across Canada. I said, it doesn't matter that you know, you're a rancher or a farmer. At the end of the day, it's you're a human being,
Hmm.
and if you're struggling, you know, there are things out there.
There are. Yeah.
Just get out there and look. But I think it's that first step, because we were all there. You know,
Hmm.
it's how do you break that? And that's the toughest place to be, is saying, hey, I'm good. I don't need help. Or I don't know where to start. Where are the resources? You know, Google can take me down thousands of pages. I don't know where to
Yeah.
go.
No. And I can echo on our last podcast the information of when you already are feeling overwhelmed, you are only one real good Google search away.
Absolutely.
And most of the time when you go on to Dr. Google, you've got something terminal. And
Yes, so true.
if you have that one person you can reach out to, you can actually have a human conversation with somebody. And if you have your accountability partner, or if you have somebody that you say, hey, look, you're my person in life that if I have to call, you're my lifeline. When I call you, it's like we offer each other no matter what, unconditionally 8 seconds. And if that 8 seconds is I need help, I'm on my way,
Yeah.
you
What do you
know?
think it is, though? Why do you think, specifically if we're talking about men's mental health, why do you think us guys are kind of struggling here to break the barrier?
Shame, this like false sense of masculinity that we have to be
Mm-hmm.
better than everybody, that we have to be walking into a room and kind of walking with our chest out and putting on this portrayal of like I've got all my shit together, when a lot of the time those people who act like that really don't.
Well, it's a
I
mask,
feel
right?
like
It's a
there's this
mask.
competition we have with each other.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Do you think it's a mask?
100% it's a
Yeah.
mask. And I talk about it even in my past with my relationship with my creator. Like so I've only become openly gay within the last decade, and I was a part of a a super church that was online and on TV, and we were flying between cities, and we were 10,000 congregational churches and green rooms and a lot of front and center stage. And I was married to the pastor, well, engaged to the pastor's daughter. So there was a lot of me carrying this mask on because I figured that my mom's not going to love me because of she grew up in the church. My dad grew up in the church. So my family's not going to accept me for
Mm-hmm.
what I've gone through. Maybe because of what I've gone through, that maybe be where I could have my queer tendencies in it. Um, all the mental issues that come with that and the self-doubt. I came to a mass with my creator every single day. And I pray to my God saying, you know, take the gay away, take, the pain away, take away, just give me the strength just to get through it. Whereas in my church, a lot of the, facilities wasn't having, a counselor or any kind of therapist because God is your
Mm-hmm.
therapy, right? Just go to the word. Um, but yeah, I think that once I became fed up of it all and I couldn't live anymore, and I started to play out in my head how I was going to end it because I was so unhappy. I just felt a nudge from God say, I love you. I met you and I know who you are. I created you. Why do you keep trying to not be who you are? And when I took that mask off, it was like this sense of freedom. And I just felt exposed in all the good ways I could be exposed. And I just felt full and whole. And,
Yeah.
and at that point, that's when my life started to change. And I was like, I need to do better.
That's beautiful. You know, I love stories like that because it's liberating. It's freedom. It's
Yeah.
um, self-acceptance. There's something in that that's so beautiful. You know, you don't even care anymore after what others think, because that pain, a lot of that
Yeah.
weight was you versus you.
Yeah.
It's us looking at ourselves in the mirror. Can we look at
Right.
ourselves? Are we happy with ourselves? So when that kind of happened and you felt liberated and free, um, again, obviously there's micro challenges and everything else that we
For
all have to
sure.
face in
Always.
different
Yeah.
things.
It's ongoing. Yeah.
But what is that like today for Gary?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's, I mean, that's the biggest question. What it's like for me is different day to day, minute to minute. It's moment to moment as well. Like I feel that now I can do life and my ups and downs are not weighted with me trying to be somebody I'm not. So I can deal with my everyday challenges that are going to happen no matter what. I mean, life was never meant or given to us as an easy card and said, here, it's just going to be, just smooth sailing. As far as our history and humanity goes, there's always going to be challenges. But in this sense, now I can actually deal with my ups and downs, deal with depression, deal with great days, okay days. But now I know that I'm loved. I don't have to try to be something I'm not. So it makes that process a lot easier, I think. Um, yeah, it's not easy. I don't think every day is always going to be easy. And I think that's the beauty of life. It's the spice of life,
You are enough.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back at it all, um, was there acceptance then from the people that you felt nervous to open up about to or whatever?
You know what? It comes into a 50-50 play on that. A lot of my close friends that were there for me were shocked, because I don't have this, uh I don't know what you would call, like, if I'm not flamboyant, I don't have what they would like to call as the gay tendencies, right? So when I did come out, everyone was like, "Oh, really? I didn't see that coming." So I knew that it was going to take a beat, and I
Mhm.
knew that it was going to be a moment of finding out once the dust settles who my real friends were. And I did a lot of mental preparation beforehand to be like, I need to be okay with people leaving because they have the right to choose that. And yeah, it was tough, but I found out who my real friends were and who my family has been. Unfortunately, me and my dad were still working on a bridge, but at the same time, all those like insecurities of me trying to fit in,
Mhm.
that's not there anymore. So I'm not worried about what somebody thinks of me, and I feel like that is the biggest, freest part of the journey of just not lying to yourself and saying like, you know
Absolutely.
what, even when I'm not okay, I'm not going to pretend like I'm okay because that's not going to do me any good.
So true.
Right.
Yeah.
And for
Uh,
you, let me turn the tables a little bit. Let's do a little bit of a lazy Susan here. How about you when you decided that you're going to go to AA? I mean, that must have been a big day for you to decide that, hey, I've got a problem here. I need to work
yeah.
on myself. I mean, that would be exposure like crazy too.
Well, oh, for sure. You wake up in the morning and you're on the floor and you've had a night of drinking and you're you thought you're gone. You wake up and you're like, wow, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, clearly that's not a good place to be either. So,
Right.
um, went online again during the pandemic, go online, start Googling around. And I said, okay, let's go to this AA stuff. You know, no one in my family had gone to AA again that I know of, or it was never talked about. I mean, I've seen it in movies. It's not a bad thing that it was or wasn't talked about. It just
What
wasn't
was your
brought up.
family like growing up? Your family home life, was that quite a conservative? Because I mean, you say you're from Tanzania,
Mhm.
right? But if people look at the video here and people who know you from your online platforms, you don't typically look like you're from East Africa, right?
Right. So my origins would have come from India, maybe
Right.
great grandparents ago, and then they had migrated to East Africa.
It's interesting.
Uh, yeah. So, it'd be neat to kind of go track all the roots and find out who I am and where I come from originally. But that's
Would be
a
interesting.
journey on its own as well
Yeah, for sure.
that I
Yeah,
one day want to dive into. I think it's kind of like the movie Lion, right? You kind of got to go one day and like explore.
you
But
do.
in terms of my family life, it was great. There was mom and dad were so um, great and exciting to be around because they
Awesome.
were letting my sister, my younger sister, and I try things, fail. It was
Mhm.
okay. Obviously, don't drink, don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
Like typical parents do that. But
Yep.
other than that, they were great parents, and I had a great childhood because of them. So they work very, very hard, and I think it would be disappointing if I feel
Hmm.
um if I just let myself go that time
Right.
for the work my mom had done for me and all the
Okay.
good she did for me in life,
So
for
do
me
you
to
think
just throw
that
it away.
you think your pain came from grief?
Grief, probably, yeah. Grief and lost.
Yeah.
Lost. I was lost. I was so lost. Trying to
So
fit
your mom
in
was your
prior
anchor.
to, though,
Yeah.
even that, the Jekyll and Hyde with the alcohol. Some days I was good, some days I wasn't. I would black out and do silly things I wasn't proud of, or,
Hmm.
thankfully nothing hurt anybody, that
Yeah.
way. But I'm sure emotionally I might have said some bad things I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
And again, apologizing all the time. And I'm so sorry, and I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. It was just too much. It was like chainsaws going on, cutting through metal. It was just
Uh,
chaos in my brain. And I think once the alcohol stopped, it was just, yes, there's worldly problems now it'll never go away, but we can
mm,
work on them or grind through them in a sane mind, I guess, give or
yeah.
take. Yeah, I
And so
think.
when you went into the AA, did you find that you had met a lot of like-minded people that were going through the same sort of struggles as you?
So when I had gone into the AA program, um, I was nervous that first day. I had a notebook out, and I actually still have my notebook. And I said is, okay, let's go in this with an open book. Let's hear people out. I don't even know what to expect.
Hmm.
But you start listening and you realize you were never alone. Those struggles, those moments, all these folks that I was like, where were you all my life? I
Right.
needed you for mid 20s, early 20s. I needed you because I was this guy.
Yeah.
And, they might be in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, talking about these things. And I'm thinking, what a gift you all are here today to help
Hmm.
me. And at the same time, we're helping each other without, there's no monetary exchange. There's no nothing. This is
No.
literally, again, everyday people talking about everyday problems that we don't talk about. And I
Yeah.
thought it's interesting if us guys can do that from MenTell's perspective. So, 2021, I had the idea for MenTell, didn't kick it off till 2023, so 2 years later.
Okay.
And we kick it off for June, Men's Mental Health Month.
Okay. Yeah.
It's been interesting. It's been incredible to see how many guys from all walks of life come out. And I just love it. That's what we want.
And just even being a part of your journey for a second, last week we had spoken about us having this conversation together, and I think we collaborated on one of your posts, and just seeing the traction that came from a mainly men who were like, this gave my hair on my back an exercise, like my hair on my back stood up, and it really was something for me, and it was just talking about, again, being able to be open and transparent about not being okay, and just the importance of being able to have conversations. And it's weird that we are in 2024, on the eve of 2025, and we're still having to beat away this
Mhm.
discrimination of weakness versus mental health, and like reaching out and not feeling like, oh, I'm weak because I'm reaching out. Instead, it's the opposite.
Absolutely. I think it's an ego thing for a lot of folks, and probably would have been for myself at one moment in time. Because I
Yeah.
always said, "Oh, I don't need it. I don't need." Well, no one ever brought up, "Hey, Zach, maybe you should look at AA." No one brought that up to
Right.
me,
No.
but no one also said, "Hey, dude, you need to get some help." In
Like,
those terms. So,
yeah.
I've gone to therapy. I go occasionally still,
Mhm.
and I don't find it's wrong to talk. I feel like it helped me so much
Yeah.
when when I'm stuck, because we still get stuck in our own head, our own thoughts, our own stories,
Yeah.
narratives. That monkey on our shoulder can say some weird things sometimes.
Yeah. And it's always when you're doing well. Like it's like there's like this tear down factor. As soon as you get really, it's almost like we have this button inside of us that's a self-sabotage button. And where we're so comfortable in feeling uncomfortable because
Mhm.
it's something that is familiar in a sense, but it's the same pain as being in the pain of depression and hurt that it is when you start something new. But the outcome of when you start something new looks drastically different than staying in the same perpetual pain. And
So
it's that scary jump that a lot of us men, we just don't seem to want to do because while I'm in control, I doesn't mean I'm in control of good things, but I'm in
mhm.
control and that's what I want. And I think that's kind of what we need to talk about too is the control factor. We're like a lot of men in their masculinity feel like we have to be in control. We have to be in control of our payments. We got to be in control of our life and our family and our kids and our wife and our partner. And we're the man. So we have to be the glue. And if we're in control, no matter if it looks good or bad, we're just going to make sure that it's just not getting too crazy and not try to like, stir the pot and then try to do something good because
Mhm.
then I'm not in control anymore. And maybe that's also something that's pretty scary for a lot of guys.
Well, absolutely. I can speak for myself is, well, recommend do not control anybody. That's
Yeah.
a little messed up. I
Hmm.
think things you should control, obviously, your finances, your household, in terms of your bills, your payments,
For
all that
sure.
stuff. Trying to make sure that's okay because financial literacy is another thing that again correlates with mental health. I mean, you
100%.
hear it in rural
Glad you said
communities
that.
all the time,
Hmm.
from farmers and ranchers. You hear that saying, "Hey, if the crops are bad this year, well, what are we going to do? Am I done?" Right. So
Yeah.
we hear that a lot, but in terms of controlling other people, yeah, I'm not big on that at all, or a big no for me.
No.
I think controlling your thoughts, or if you can't control your thoughts, controlling what happens after that, because you're going to let it ruin your day. Are you going to exercise? Are you going to go carpe diem, seize the day, and just say, okay, you know what, I'm done? Because I've done that a few times now, Gary, and I keep running into roadblocks, moment after moment, conversation after conversation, in a day, and I'm thinking, who is who is the person here that's the issue? It's me.
Hmm. Right.
And I look back, why? I didn't have a good night's sleep. So everything is
Yep.
looking weird. My fuse is short,
Hmm.
or I'm just trying to get things done, taking shortcuts when I don't need to,
Right.
and because you haven't slept, so you're just trying to
Yeah.
get it done, and you're grinding, and instead of just saying, you know what, there is a tomorrow for the most
Yeah.
part.
Right.
Does this really
100%.
need to be done today?
Right.
Is it a
Prioritize it.
dire need,
Yeah.
or can you do it tomorrow?
Right. And that's the thing, and also being disciplined in your actions. So like if you aren't getting a good night's sleep, well, why were you not getting a good night's sleep? Were you watching TV too late? Were you eating too late? Were you not having enough water during the day yesterday? Those are things that we can control. And we turn our bad days and then we start pointing our fingers. But again, it's the awareness of knowing, well, why am I not feeling good today? There's
Mhm.
got to be a reason why I'm not feeling good today. Why am I triggered? Is it because of the people I'm around? Is it because of the music I'm listening to, the programs that I'm digesting, the
Mhm.
books I'm reading? What are all those seeds that I'm planting that are creating worse days for me tomorrow, a week, or a month ahead? And if we don't learn our behaviors and look inward and be like, well, what can I do to change? Yeah, that doesn't make a difference at all then at that point.
I try to think about this though, is wh- when we talk about mental health, and we said, oh, it's a taboo, and we're going into 2025, and it's still considered a weakness.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a moment where we flip it and say, do we celebrate mental health? But I don't know if that's also the right wording and the right phrase around it, because you don't want that
I
either.
think we can. I think mental health is not always going to be bad. Mental
It's
health
not a
can be
bad
something
thing.
good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I don't think it's bad. You don't think it's bad.
No.
But if, and more guys like this speaking up, or more folks speaking up, we have so many folks from all walks of life, females as well, that
Hmm.
support us. And we love this because
Yeah,
We all live in this world together. And
we
this
do.
planet is so big, yet it's so small. So we all need to
Very
work
true.
together. So, there's different groups for everybody, and, they're more focused in on certain things and niches, and just like certain Instagram pages for dogs and cats
Yeah,
and birds,
exactly.
right? So it just narrowed in to kind of say, what are some of the things that we're facing and challenges? And I guess from my side is this, where can you see MenTell growing? How can, we help you and, get you to kind of give us some ideas and suggestions. So every June we do Men's Mental Health Month, and throughout the year we do awareness through content. Again,
Mm-hmm.
this is not, you know, therapy advice or
Right.
advice from, it's just, again, everyday folks. So if you guys feel comfortable listening to that and hearing that, then that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great, 100%. And like
Mhm.
having the social media, because everybody is unfortunately really consumed in their phones. And like you said, they have got their own sort of things. They're running into like dog platforms, home decor programs, training programs, whatever the case is. And then when they land onto a platform like MenTell, and maybe not the first post hits, but the second post, no, that's
Yeah.
okay. That one sounds like it's good for me. Then it's the third one, and then it becomes something where it becomes a little bit more frequent and more, I guess, familiar. And with
Mhm.
the guys and the ambassadors that you have on there who are talking out and showing that it isn't weakness is something that I think that's extremely important, and saying, hey, yes, there are real people out there who are just like you and I, and like you said, walking all different types of walks of life, who collaborate together in a sense of saying, let's celebrate mental health, let's celebrate each other, let's celebrate being a man, and let's celebrate helping other men out there. And yes, women are a part of it as well, because it's what we do. We live together. We feed off of each other's energy, and I think that mental health is something we should celebrate going forward. 100%.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can have you on the page as an ambassador.
Yeah, I'd be
'Cause
more
you-
than proud to.
Thank you, because you're
100%.
doing
I
some
mean,
amazing things. Yeah.
look, I know my story is still in its infancy, and I think there is a lot more to come off of it. And I know that this is a calling. My pain and my journey that I've gone through, and the day that I decided to start a podcast and speak about it, was not even about somebody else. It was, man, I'm in so much pain. I am bleeding, and I just don't know if I have a big enough band-aid. And I
Right.
didn't know what to do. And I thought, you know what? I have my business, I have my husband, I have my house,
Mhm.
but I'm so unhappy. And I'm like, why is it that I'm unhappy? It's not the external, it's internal. And I feel like I'm just dying on the inside. And the moments where everything is good, and I was so blinded by my internal pain that I was ready to turn off the light. I was like, I'm going to just get out there and I'm going to share my story. And if my story is just a memoir, then so be it. But it turned out to be something that
Mhm.
caught me, and I started to read health books and read things that were important to me, and started to do like journaling, and started to do gratitude. And man, it's the small little steps that have created big pathway movements. I've
That's
been
incredible. Have you tried bullet journaling?
What is that?
So it's a format, a journaling format style that
Mhm.
kind of reading this book on, and it's interesting. It's almost like bullet points, but it's very structured.
Okay.
Because I tried a few times to journal, but when I do journal, I
Yeah.
I go on tangents, like page after page after page. So I think for
Yeah.
myself, I needed to kind of
Yeah.
shorten it or have some structure.
Okay.
Yeah, because today I ate this, and then this is how I felt, and yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
So like bullet journaling, what is, I mean, for somebody who's listening now, like, and they're like, you know what? I can't journal either because
Right.
I could sit for hours journaling. What does that do?
So I'll actually, so I don't butcher it for the listeners here, I'll give a
Yeah,
quick explanation. Yeah.
sure. And like, is this something that you've been doing just recently, or have you been doing this for a little while?
Oh no, I'm actually reading a book. So his name is Ryder Carroll,
Okay.
and I'm reading his book. So he's kind of got it in a interesting format. So he goes, so I'll explain kind of what he does. Is like bullet
Yeah.
journaling is customizable organizational systems, and it combines elements of a planner, diary, and to-do list all in a blank notebook. So it kind of gives you the flexibility to design it as you need. So you can index it, you can have monthly logs, write down tasks, notes, kind of blend it all together.
Okay.
So it's a mix of journaling, diary, and a calendar to kind of prioritize your life.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the
And like I said, like,
Eisenhower
uh,
matrix. Have you seen it?
no, I don't think so. I like,
Oh, that is so cool. It
yeah.
is, it's kind of a to-do list matrix that I use,
Okay.
and it's got it goes X and Y axis of what is important and what's not. Because there's a do now,
Yeah.
but if you don't do it now, can you wait a little bit? Can it wait a day or two? Can you, and that's how
It's all
President
starting to sound
Eisenhower
familiar.
was able
Yeah.
to kind of go through is what is important in these four boxes right now.
Right.
And I think that's when you start realizing, wow, a lot of it is empty in
Hmm.
the now. And guess what? That means that's that time for you. Take care of you.
Hmm.
Go outside, go read a book that you're enjoying. We talked about all the great books that we have to get through, but
Yeah, we
start
did.
somewhere.
I'm a big advocate for movement, and I have a lot of, so I also kind of two parts. So I grew up in Calgary from 1989 to 1997. So through my youth, so I went to a bit of elementary, junior high, and high school here. And when I left, I had built such a group of really good, strong core friends that when I came back, those are the people that I was afraid to lose when I found out my true authentic self. Luckily, and I'm more than grateful that I would say 80% of that core of my friend group is still very much a part of my life. And
Mhm.
these people that are a part of my life are extreme avid mountain climbers. They're achievers in what they do in their craft. And I was introduced to climbing mountains with them. And man, just the benefit of feeling outward pain releases the inward struggle because you don't have time to think about all the garbage anymore. You're more concentrating on putting one foot in front of the other. And the analogy of that in life is like, we are just continuing just to keep moving forward, but we're focusing on what we're doing. And man, when you get to the top of the mountain and you're just rewarded with these amazing views, and you're there with your brothers and you're like having like high five sessions, and one guy brings out a tea that he's been carrying all the way up the mountain. It again, it's the movement, and also the community and movement. And like you said, go outside and walk, or maybe join some sort of a martial arts, or maybe swimming or basketball or whatever your sport is, or whatever your
Mhm.
love is, even if it's drawing and art and music. It's gets you out of your mind. It's a good one.
It's so true. And again, power of community, power of people.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think we can do things alone and we can tackle these problems or whatever life
No,
alone. You're
don't.
not alone. And, you start talking, things start moving, and you're like, okay, this will inspire me. I mean, if you're doing pottery, even,
Yeah.
you're moving. And I don't know if I talked to you about this, but I was talking to Do More Egg about this. And I told them, oftentimes what I've read is guys won't want to just do hey, let's meet up and talk about our mental health.
Fair
Why don't
enough.
we go do an activity? Let's go build a
Right.
shed.
Right.
So now we're not always making eye contact, but what we're
Right.
doing is we're working with tools, and we can just say, oh man, my day's not been good, or I don't know what to do with this, whatever that's happening in life. It's a start.
It
At
is.
least you get the conversation going. So I look at rural communities a lot lately, and I'm seeing the issues going on. Like, okay, well, how do we tackle this? Obviously isolation is huge out there.
Mhm.
You drive by some of these fields and you think, God, what do you do with your mind all day long?
Well,
You can
and the
listen to the
thing is, you can
radio, a
only,
podcast, but
yeah, but
what
how long
else?
can you do that for? Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be something that drives you day after day.
Yeah. And
The
and I think that the rural community, like I'm married to a farmer, and his family are from Saskatchewan, in the middle of nowhere. And his family are all, lineage of farming, and they've been doing it for 150 years, forever long that they came from Europe. And I do find that they have to, his family is really good at finding hobbies like doing woodwork. or they'll doing art, or they're hunters. So when they hunt, then
Mhm.
they're processing the meat, and there's always keeping busy. And that is the thing. And his mom had once said to me, the idle mind is a playground for the devil. And I don't think she meant it more on just a religious point of view, but on a sense of where we can internalize things, overthink things. And if we're not keeping busy or creating goals for ourselves, even in the down times, that we end up idolizing. And in that idle time, that's when all our thoughts creep in and everything else. And I was thinking about that exact point when you were talking about your bullet point journaling and having a calendar and setting goals. I mean, that's brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, if we don't have something to look forward to, what are we doing? You know, um, over there, I have this thing my mom had given me, and for years I didn't fill it out. For years, actually,
Yeah.
God, 15 years. Uh, and I didn't care. Again, I didn't care. I have a
Yeah.
lot of growing up to do, but it says, "Where will you be, or where would you like to be in 5 years?" That's the book's title, and you just kind of go
Wow.
in and fill out things, and it's kind of gets you thinking. You're like, well, how do I want to design this one life? Of course, I've tripped and fallen many times before. I've started things and failed, or learned a lesson, whatever way you want to look at it. And you can you can look at failures as end all be all. I suck. I'm a loser. Or you dust yourself off, dust those boots, and you say, "Let's go again." Right?
So that's kind of funny. It's that your mom has this book for you. What would you like to be in 5 years? And we're in your mom's fifth year anniversary.
Yeah.
And look where you've come in your last 5 years. That's huge. I mean, that's something to be massively proud of. What is the next stage? What do you have kind of an idea of what 25 is going to look like?
Ooh, that could be challenging at times. I do, yet there are a few things I kind of want to kind of organically see fall in place. Because
Yeah.
again, there's, like Bruce Lee says about water flow. The times we force and force things, it never is what it is. So it's almost like New Year's Eve. We always think it's going to be this amazing party, and
Yeah.
it's going to be, it never is. Let's be
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
So I think you just got to enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride. If you're feeling better, do that. And if you're not,
Yeah.
find the people. They're seriously out there. We're all here. Uh, the it's interesting. I'm just gonna grab it for a second here. It's right here.
Yeah. Let's see it. That's quite interesting. It's funny how though we were talking about what are you going to be in 5 years, and now we're looking at it coming into 5 years, and you've placed your MenTell and you've
Hmm.
also placed your podcast. Is that the book there? Hey,
Yeah, it's got the coffee spill on it. It's been here for a long
because
time.
it was like a paperweight probably for a while.
And it's yeah, it's been in boxes and it was never filled. But you know what? It says, "What is life for? It is for you." So it was really interesting. It says, I'll read the first page for some
Yeah,
folks
please.
here. It says,
Yeah.
"This is your life, your one and only life. Over the next 5 years, what do you really want to do? What do you really want to have? What do you really want to be? Where do you really want to go? There are no rules here. This is not a workbook. It's a playbook. This is not a here's how book. It's a why not. So be daring, be bold, and be true to yourself." So it's interesting as we get older, you start looking at things, and it's so beautiful. It says the
It
best day
is.
of your life is the day on which you decide your life is your own. No one to lean on, rely on, or blame. The gift of life is yours. It's an amazing journey, and you alone are responsible for the quality of it. So it goes on and on, but it's
Yeah, it's beautiful. Such a
eye-opening.
great sentiment for what, like, just the way life should be. I mean, it's written about the poetry of life. That is great. And the
And
fact that your mom gave it to you and you still have that in your hand, that's a legacy. I love that.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
really,
uh,
really good.
I surround myself with her. So she was an entrepreneur as well, and her desk is right over there, and it's kind of by my desk. So I kept her desk and her
Sweet.
computer and everything on it. So I look over and I look at her chair and desk, and I'll say, "Mom, I need help. I need guidance."
Oh,
Some people might think it's a little
yeah.
silly, but
No,
I needed. some anchors. I have a French bulldog here sleeping and snoring if you're hearing him, but
No, you got a good mic. I can't hear the
oh,
background.
okay, fantastic. But it's one of those things where you just hold it near and dear. Things that someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, and that was moms to us. I'm
Yeah,
sure your mom did so much for
for
you to be the
sure.
man you are today. And it's funny, as we're getting older, little bits of them start creeping up in us, don't they?
They really do. Like I mean, it sounds really like superficial, but I've got her hands, and
Okay.
when I'm doing things, I heard her say, "Use your hands. Use what's in your hands. Use your hands. You're so good at what you do." And then I'll look at my hands, and it's like I could almost hear her. So it's the same thing. Like
Mhm.
it's funny. Like I'll go through stuff, and I won't feel her for the longest time. Then all of a sudden, I'll like get a glimpse of my hands, and I'm like, "Oh, got my mom's hands." And I
Oh,
get a reminder, like, just use your hands and in what the gifts you got, which is such a thing that she told me. I
beautiful.
completely like resonate with you in your relationship with your mom. It's
Yeah.
hard. It really
It
is.
is. And
Yeah.
and when you're out and about, sometimes you might just see someone walk by you and maybe a part of them reminded you of your mom for a second.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
What's the best memory that you have just off the top of your head now of your mom?
Ooh, where do we start?
Like, you know how before when we would get sad and we would think about our mom, it would be kind of a painful thing. What is it now when when you think of your mom that brings you joy or makes you smile?
I think it was the times when I was doubting myself. I would talk to her and she'd say, "Go for it. Like you
Yeah,
got it." And it's those little words of encouragement that sometimes I do miss. Because again, like we talked about earlier, it's that self-doubt.
it is.
Ah,
Yeah.
what if I'm not good enough? I'm not qualified enough to do this. I'm gonna fail. I suck. Or
Yeah.
God, how long is this gonna take me to learn? And by the time I learn it, I'll be way behind everyone else.
Right.
So it's
Y-
that thing, that narrative in here. So she was always great at kind of encouraging me to kind of, I don't know, that spirit, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful spirit. And I think the gift of life is what she gave me that I am so thankful for.
That is amazing. And I think that when we get to the point where you are now, we can be grateful for the time that we had rather than be resentful for the time we still don't have with them. And we can
So
look at
true.
back at the time, right? And be like, wow, I learned so much. And the amount of like presence and like just her being like present in our present was so real. And there are so many people out there that have never even experienced that. And how lucky and loved were we, right? It sucks it was too short, but we got a lot of it at least.
You know what? And that's such a beautiful way to look at it. There's again, a lot of times there are two ways. Are we on the railroad or on the rail tracks, or are we off of it, right? There's just 1 foot
Yeah,
off, 1 foot on. Where are we at? It's everything's a second away from something
sure
and
is.
a thought away. So I love that approach is, the resentment piece. I've never been there with that. Oh, poor me, mom's
Right.
gone because of how can you leave me? How can you do this?
Right.
Um, it was,
And I have, and I've been there. Like I've been
yeah.
angry at her and been like, how could, angry at God, angry at everything. But I think that's a part of how people grieve differently. And
Hmm.
it's part of the process. And again, speaking to a psychologist and being able to unpack it and compartmentalize it, I was able to understand it from an external rather than being like, well, I'm just angry because, everything sucks. It was more, I'm angry because I loved something so much
Mm.
and that my pain and my anguish is actually just love in translation in my tears and in my pain, which was
All
a
right.
beautiful realization that like that grieving is just my love for her being translated.
For me, it was a mask, right? The
Yeah.
alcohol covered it. So just covered that up, drink it away, drown myself in the sorrows. At least you were able to express it. Because I also think, for anyone that suppresses tears, cry. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's so important. We're only human
It is.
beings. Like you need to feel
Hmm.
and let loose, let it
Yeah.
out. It's your body saying, Be free.
I'm glad you said that. That's so true. It's just a way our body is just cleaning itself out. It's healing. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
know.
I'll tear up sometimes on something, or I'll, is it something beautiful, or sometimes
Yeah.
it's very sad, and you just think, wow, that's it touches,
Zach, sometimes I cry over like a dog commercial. If I'm having a week,
Yeah.
like it's like this stupid like toilet paper commercial with like this touching sentiment. I'm like, my husband will look at me. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just having a week."
Is it like Dove or Dial or whatever
I think
cleaning
so.
the
Something like
birds?
that. Yeah.
They're-
It's just the sad music, Sarah McLachlan's,
Yes.
background music. Yeah. Like that type of
She's
thing.
playing Angel and you're feeling it.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No,
Just like right in the feels.
but
Does.
I think though you feel this as well as someone else's pain. You
Yeah.
understand it now now that you've gone through grief and loss like at such an extreme level that
Yeah.
if anyone else passes away, you're just like, wow, how do you go? Like, how are they gonna go through that? How are they gonna feel? Because you kind
Mhm.
of almost it plays in your head. It's a
It
memory.
does.
It's
It
a
does.
muscle memory. Yeah.
It's a muscle memory, and I think it's also a superpower. It's a gift. It became like a crutch for me to walk with, where when pain recognizes pain, and because I'm farther along in my journey, if there's somebody who's just experienced it, I can tell them the truth rather than be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's okay, here's some flowers." It's not okay. It's okay to not be okay, and it's
Hmm.
gonna hurt, and it's probably gonna get dark. And when it does, I can help you just by being a sounding board, or, these are the things that I did when I was feeling at my worst that helped. These are the things that I did at my worst that didn't help, living by example. And I think that's what we, like you were talking about, the baton thing. And I think that with pain, we pass on that baton and of our life's experiences.
Hmm.
And that's where
Well,
community, I think, is key.
and I think is, especially in the space we're in, is there's almost you have to have a shield to protect your own energy as well.
Oh, for sure.
For the
There's
people
times.
that are listening, is you
Yeah.
also don't need to take the abuse or the pain someone else is going through and like bring it
Correct.
upon yourself. Again, we've heard the phrase oxygen mask on the
Yeah.
airline before yourself. Um,
Very good.
but protect your peace, protect yourself. If you've gotten to that level, you don't need to bring that extra weight on that's gonna tear you down because that's
No,
you're not gonna benefit that person and you're not gonna
no.
benefit yourself. So make sure you hold on to it when you find peace and now start okay, doing what you can without over exceeding yourself.
Yeah.
As
Very
mentioned to
true.
you with MenTell at the moment is we can't do weekly video calls or meetups that I would love one day to do. It's just
Hmm.
we're not there yet. But if we said we're going to do it and we don't do it, then we're just letting ourselves down and
Yeah.
everyone else around us. And I don't think that's fair. So I think it's know your gauge, know how much you can take. And it goes back to that carpe diem, this seize the moment, seize the day where you're just like, I can't do anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
I literally can't. And just call it what it is.
Yeah. Zach, can I add to that? I think you said the gauge thing, which made me think of that we, as your ambassadors, as your group of friends and people that that have started doing MenTell, and you doing the work that you've been doing with the Canadian podcast as you've been the host. Everybody has a different skill. And if you've gone through something, sometimes less conversations, more, hey, why don't you come to a boot camp with me? I run a boot camp. Why don't you come to this type of program? Or we're doing these things. And just the act of just being present, and while you're doing your thing, because I think that you and I, we both know that when we go through our pain, we find what our hobbies are, what works for us, and we do them. And if we in tow have people who see us, that's a way of also processing and helping people go through their journeys in life too, rather than saying, okay, I take everything on, and sharing your deep story, like you said, gauging how much energy you put out. But if you already are doing a sport or some sort of a program or something that is bettering your own life because of your pain, maybe sharing that with them too. Is that a thing you think?
No, I agree with you 100%, dude.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something you said. It's okay to not be okay. I agree with that. But I also think is it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there.
Right.
So, because it's gonna, I mean, let's be honest, we weren't good to ourselves. We weren't good to, then you start looking around. Well, it was trickling into everything we did, you
Hmm.
know? So let's go to the core, the root. And again, gosh, it's an everyday, every minute journey.
It is.
I don't think I'll ever be okay. And like 100% okay. And I'm not striving for that anymore. You know,
No.
it's surviving, it's coping, it's moving through this world at a moving with grace, I guess you could call it.
Nice. I like that. And it's also learning to let go. Otherwise, you get dragged with everything that comes with it.
Mm.
If
Get
if
bitter.
you, right? You get bitter, 100%. Get bitter, get better, or get bitter, as they say.
Yeah, and just want
Yeah.
to let folks know is with MenTell is there's no course, there's no we're not selling you anything. I I want to make that clear. It is
Mhm.
gonna be always free, right? That's what it should be. It's not a program, it's not anything. It just needs to be free and accessible to anyone from all walks of life. So, yeah.
Zach, I want to thank you for your heart, and I know that it does take work, and it is a selfless contribution that you're putting out there, because I know that you care, and
Mhm.
you care about yourself and you care about other people. And I think that is the main message that I wanted to bring out with this podcast between us, is that we are a group of guys who really do care. We care about ourselves and we care about each other and we care about doing better in society. And I think that you being the spearhead for this, and sitting down with me here and talking about it, it really does translate into, just like you said, grace and love and being easy with yourself. And I really do want to thank you for, humbly say thank you for taking care of yourself so that you can share your story.
And thank you for having me on. I do appreciate this. And again, it takes folks like yourself, it takes a tribe, a community, a village to be able to do these things. You know, we need each other. So,
Yeah,
you know, I hope more of these conversations happen because you're doing incredible. I love your podcast. So,
I appreciate
doing
that.
it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, guys, thank you for listening and tuning into the Gary My podcast. Zach, I'm going to put all your information in the bottom on the read up on the bio, and your link, and then also the link to your podcast as well. And of course, is there any type of affiliate or some sort of a group of people that you would say that we can put on there for people who say, like, hey, I need to reach out to somebody? Do you know of, like, you, because I know that you say we're not here to um, doctor people's mental health at the point, but do you
Mhm.
have resources at all?
Yeah. So they can go on our website, but you can also look at things like the suicide hotline 988. Again,
Yep.
all on MenTell's website. You can click the images and it'll go
Mhm.
directly to the website of whatever you're looking for.
Okay.
Um,
Stuff.
but
Perfect.
again, you know, there's things like Porchlight out there. There's a
Yes.
great group of guys at the Collective. I'll send you their Instagram, the Collective
Okay.
IG. Incredible human beings.
Perfect.
Um, Chance and Sean, they've really helped me stand on my own 2 feet as well with various other folks. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Okay.
so you know, there's a guy named Satch. He's planning a run across Canada. There's a guy named Seb. You know, he's a sergeant major, or was
Yeah.
Vancouver SWAT. There's just so many people out there that have just kind of like been a rock, and you're just like, okay, you know, I
We
can.
can do this.
We can do this. It's the I can has been kind of on the back burner now.
Good stuff.
So thank you, bro.
Thank you very much. Well, that was the Gary My podcast. Click and subscribe for any new content that's coming up and be notified for it. Zach, once again, thanks a lot for being on the Gary My podcast. We appreciate you.
Hopefully we'll have you on the Canadian podcast soon.
Absolutely. I'll be more than honored to. Thank you.